Let's talk now, though, to Gavin Ashenden, former Anglican bishop, ex-chaplain to the Queen. He's going to have a few things to say, we would imagine, about the church in crisis this morning after the Archbishop of Canterbury, Welby, Justin Welby, yesterday quit because he was in shame for a scandal which has engulfed the entire Church of England. Gavin, a very good morning to you.
Hello, Mike. Good morning.
Yeah, good to talk to you. A lot of questions this morning in all the papers, really, not just about Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, and why he took so long to resign, but sort of what happens now, really, because a lot of calls are being put out there for possibly other members of the clergy to be questioned, possibly police investigations might be required. Should Archbishop Welby, I don't know what we call him now, actually, we just call him Justin Welby, should he still have a place in the House of Lords? You know, many questions, not many answers.
Well, you're quite right. I think the Church of England has given up its right to be in the House of Lords. They only speak as left-wing politicians, and they don't represent the country or the Church. I think there are several other people who ought to also resign. One of them is his chaplain, a woman called Jo Bailey-Wells. She was the person who failed to communicate properly with the police. And I think who replaces him, the Church of England, is in a very new place it's never been in before. In the past, it's been a church where it tried to build a bridge across the Reformation issues. It was a mixture of high church and low church. Now all this, and they used to sort of swap one for the other. Well, you know, one archbishop in, one high, one low. Now it's swallowed identity politics, and the candidates are all either woke or more woke. They're left or more left. Right. So that's really quite difficult for a church that says it's a church of the nation, when actually it's just, in fact, a branch of the Labour Party that talks a bit about God, but not much.
And not very much about God. I mean, I was listening to Rod Liddell last night talking to Kevin O'Sullivan, and he said that he was watching a speech being made by Justin Welby about something or other quite recently, and he said he didn't mention God once. You know,
no, they don't.
He doesn't really talk about God. It's all a bit embarrassing. He's like, I'm terribly sorry. You know, he's almost apologetic about the fact that he's a man of the cloth, supposedly. But, you know, this is the problem. The people all now defending Justin Welby and say what a great guy he is are all left-wing, either members of the Labour Party. I mean, Alistair Campbell came out and defended him yesterday, and I thought, well, that's not the greatest endorsement you could have ever had. Rory Stewart came out and said he was a really nice bloke, very open and transparent, you know, and he gets everything wrong. And so it's just a very odd sort of situation. And as for the sort of constitutional right, if you like, of the bishops to be in the House of Lords, I was amused to hear from various contributors yesterday that the only other country in the entire world which has, you know, theologians as part of the government is Iran.
Yes, well, that's true. And it wouldn't actually matter quite so much if they did talk about God. I mean, because, you know, ultimately, the belief in God is a worldview that stretches beyond death. And you're once perfectly entitled to have it. And in fact, I think if you don't have it, it doesn't make sense of life. But they need to do it across a spread of values. And so they fail in two ways. They don't talk about God, and they don't have a spread of values. They really are just left-wing apparatchiks. And you know, and as a result, why should they be tolerated as a political group in the House of Lords?
Well, quite. And as a result of the investigation, the Makin review, as it was called, which was published just recently and launched in 2019, I mean, the detail of it is pretty shambolic when you look at what Justin Welby's role may have been. You know, he says, it says the Archbishop of Canterbury attended Christian summer camps alongside this guy, John Smyth, between 1975 and 1979. He worked as a dormitory officer and even bunked with Smyth twice. And this guy Smyth was clearly a very dangerous individual, a very nasty and cruel individual, and I can't believe for a minute that Justin Welby didn't notice any of that.
I'm afraid people suspect him of lying, and we can only say that. I'm really sorry. It's a terribly serious thing to say, but the trouble is all organisations leak. They gossip like crazy. The church is no different. It's very difficult. Well, and people say they overheard him having a very serious conversation about this guy, and he says he's forgotten about it. So people find that difficult to believe. They also find it difficult to believe when he said, we've told the police they're acting on it, and it turns out they hadn't told the police and they weren't acting on it. So, you know, as Kathy Newman said, look, you're either a liar or you're incompetent. Which is it? So he said, well, I'm incompetent. So he's resigned. But some of us think he might be both.
Well, indeed. And just because he thinks that's the end of it doesn't mean it should be the end of it, does it? Because, I mean, there could well be now reason for the police to investigate. There could well be reasons to find out who else knew what and when they knew it, whether any documentation was produced, whether, you know, meetings were held, whether there was a complete kind of brushing of all of it under the carpet. You know, we've got so many questions, and a lot of people have said to me, and many of them are the victims, of course, of this man, they say, well, we don't think it should end here.
No, I think that, I mean, I can understand that. I'm not sure how much more can be achieved apart from holding people who failed along with him accountable. But the tragedy is, I mean, it goes much back further. About 25 years ago, appointments to the Church of England were put in the hands of I mean, I think the appointments secretary used to be work for as in HR in British Gas, and she brought the whole mentality of human resources in British Gas to the Church of England, appointed Welby to do their work on the grounds that he was a clever corporation man, and so he's come in and turned the Church of England into a corporation, but he's done it badly. So you get the worst of both worlds. It's very difficult to know how you put any of that right.
And what does he now call himself? Just because I don't honestly know the answers to that. I mean, if you're no longer Archbishop, does he still have a role in the church? Does he still have a title of some kind? What?
Well, I don't know what he calls himself when he looks in the mirror in the morning and shaves, but the answer is that his predecessor became Lord Williams and went to run a Cambridge college. I mean, he'll be offered a sinecure on a quango by his friends.
Yes, but I mean, Rowan Williams was a reasonably substantive man, wasn't he? And
he was excellent. I mean, he's much more left-wing than I was, but he was excellent in every respect. But the problem is that Justin Welby's been underwhelming. I think a lot of people want to see him not be appointed to the House of Lords as a sign that, you know, he hasn't earned it. He hasn't done his job well.
But I'm sorry to go on about this, but is he just now Mr. Justin Welby?
He's the right reverend. I think he drops right honourable. I mean, the problem with the church is it does get awfully Gilbert and Sullivan, and lots of. I think I had about 5 prefixes at one time when I was doing quite. But so I mean, they're prefects mad.
He'll be.
It's a bit like that. He'll be called the Right Reverend Justin Welby. But you know, God bless. I just hope he disappears into the slipstream of history, because he's not done anyone any favours.
No, indeed. So I mean, so he's still a member of the Church of England. I mean, can he be? I mean, I was raised as a Catholic. Can he be excommunicated? Do you have such things in the Church of England?
Oh, well, I've become a Catholic, so I'm with you, Mike. No, the thing about the Church of England is you can't ever leave it. I had to go through some extraordinary Victorian piece of legislation to stop them inventing charges and coming after me. It's called the Clergy Disability Act, because the Church of England had a habit of pursuing people who'd tried to leave to stitch them up. So you can't get out of the Church of England. It has no real
a bit like something from Wolf Hall, doesn't it?
It is a bit. Well, it's not as. At least, I mean, yeah. Wolf Hall is a dreadful retelling of the story from historical revisionism. But the problem with the Church of England is it's just not a real church. You can't enter it properly. You can't leave it properly, and it's full of politics. One of the reasons I left it.
Yeah. Fascinating. Well, listen, Gavin, I'm sure we'll be talking about this again, because I don't think the story's going away anytime soon. Gavin Ashenden there, former Anglican bishop, ex-chaplain to the Queen. Very civilised man, indeed. These are the kind of calibre of people that we like on this show.